The call comes at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, exactly 6 months after I thought our nightmare was over. Mrs. Williams, this is Jenny from Bright Horizons Daycare. We need to discuss Tyler's behavior today. I grip the phone tighter, my knuckles white against the plastic. Through the kitchen window, I can see my rebuilt garden thriving in the spring sunshine, herbs growing where Patricia once called them weeds. Tyler told Miss Sarah that his grandma said mommy is mean and lies about good people. He also asked when Grandma Pat was coming back to make Daddy happy again. The words hit like ice water. Patricia Williams has been in federal prison for 6 months, serving time for elder fraud, property theft, and manipulation. Yet somehow, her poison still courses through my family's veins. I. When did he say this? During circle time. Mrs. Williams, given your family's situation and our mandatory reporting requirements, I have to ask, has anyone been in contact with Tyler about his grandmother? CPS. Child Protective Services. The three letters that still wake me in cold sweats. The weapon Patricia wielded so expertly against me. No one, I whisper. No one has been in contact. But even as I say it, I know it's not entirely true. Robert has been taking Tyler to therapy sessions with Dr. Phillips, the same Dr. Phillips that Patricia recommended before her arrest. The same Dr. Phillips who diagnosed me with postpartum psychosis based on Patricia's testimonies. Flashback 6 months earlier. The Thanksgiving that changed everything. Let me tell you how we got here. How a woman I'd never met before my wedding day nearly destroyed everything I loved. How I learned that sometimes the most dangerous predators were the mask of loving grandmothers. It started on November 22nd, the night before Thanksgiving. I was in our kitchen, flour dusting my Northwestern University apron, preparing what I'd planned to be the perfect holiday meal. Turkey brining in the garage, cranberry sauce simmering on the stove, pumpkin pie cooling on the counter. Robert was upstairs giving Tyler his bath, their laughter echoing through our suburban Chicago home. We'd been married 3 years, and I still felt that warm flutter when I heard them together. My brilliant, analytical husband, the man who could debug the most complex code at his tech company, completely undone by a 2-year-old's giggle. Back then, I thought our biggest challenge was deciding whether Tyler should call Robert's mother Grandma or Grammy when she visited next month. The doorbell rang at 10:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I glanced at the microwave clock, wondering who could possibly be visiting so late. Through the peephole, I saw a silver-haired woman in a designer coat, surrounded by matching luggage that probably cost more than our monthly mortgage. Patricia Williams, Robert's mother. The woman I'd met exactly twice at our wedding and Tyler's baptism. Surprise, she announced when I opened the door, her arms spread wide as if expecting an embrace. I know I'm early, but the house sold faster than expected. Robert said any time was fine. Behind her, a taxi driver was unloading what looked like enough luggage for a month-long vacation. Patricia, we weren't expecting you until Christmas. Oh, nonsense. Robert texted me weeks ago. She was already pushing past me into our foyer, her sharp eyes taking inventory of everything: the family photos on the console table, Tyler's toy trucks scattered near the stairs, my grandmother's antique vase that held fresh flowers from our garden. These roses are completely wrong for this space, she announced, dropping her purse on our antique bench. And really, Emily, artificial flowers would be so much more practical with a small child around. They weren't artificial. I'd cut them from our garden that morning. Robert. She called up the stairs. Surprise. The text messages. Robert appeared at the top of the stairs, Tyler wrapped in a superhero towel in his arms. His face cycled through confusion, surprise, and something I couldn't quite identify: guilt. Mom? What are you doing here? I thought. Show her the messages, darling. Patricia's voice had that particular steel underneath silk quality I'd later learned to fear. The ones where you said I could come anytime. With Tyler still in his arms, Robert awkwardly pulled out his phone. His thumb scrolled for a moment before his face fell. Oh God. Mom, when you asked about Thanksgiving, I said, of course, anytime, but I meant next year, or Christmas, or 3 weeks ago, Robert. Patricia's voice was patient, long-suffering. You said it, and I quote, Mom, you know you're always welcome here. Anytime you need us, after Dad's funeral, after I sold the house you grew up in, after I've been alone for 8 months. I thought you meant it. I watched my husband's face crumble. Robert's father had died suddenly of a heart attack the previous Christmas Eve. The funeral had been a blur of sympathy casseroles and Robert's quiet grief. Here's what I didn't know then. Patricia had been planning this moment for months. Every tearful phone call about being so lonely in that big house. Every mention of how difficult it was to manage on her pension. Every subtle hint about wanting to be closer to her only grandchild. She'd been weaving a web, and we'd walked right into it. Of course I meant it, Robert said quietly. You're always welcome here, Mom. We should have coordinated better. Patricia's smile was radiant. Oh, sweetheart, I know you're both busy. I didn't want to be a bother. I thought I'd surprise you. The taxi driver cleared his throat behind us. That'll be $340 from O'Hare, ma'am. $340 for a taxi ride. I did quick math. Patricia lived on Social Security and a small pension from her nursing career. That taxi fare was nearly half her monthly income. Later, I'd discover she'd maxed out her credit cards for this surprise visit. Later, I'd learn that the house she claimed had sold was actually being foreclosed on. Later, I'd understand that Robert wasn't her son to her, he was her retirement plan. The first night, the guest room, Patricia announced after Robert paid the taxi driver. I remember it being much larger. It's Tyler's playroom now, I explained. He needs space for his toys, and we converted it after. Oh, her pause was perfectly timed. Well, I suppose I can make do with the couch for tonight. Though with my back problems, it's going to be quite uncomfortable. Robert and I exchanged glances. His mother was 65, in excellent health from what I could see, but she was already rubbing her lower back with one hand, her expression pained. Mom, you can't sleep on the couch, Robert said immediately. Emily, maybe we could move Tyler's toys to our room temporarily? And there it was. The first test. The first moment where Robert chose his mother's comfort over our family's established routines. Robert, Tyler needs his play space. And tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I have 12 people coming for dinner. 12 people? Patricia's eyebrows rose. Oh, honey, you've planned too much. At your age, with a small child? I remember when Robert was Tyler's age, I never attempted anything so ambitious. At my age, I was 32. She'd been 25 when Robert was born. I can handle it, I said firmly. I've been planning this for weeks. Of course you can, Patricia said soothingly. Though with my nursing background, I can't help but notice how tired you look. Are you getting enough rest? Eating enough iron-rich foods? The stress of hosting such a large gathering. She was already in our hallway, opening doors, peering into rooms. Tyler's nursery, our master bedroom, the bathroom. Taking inventory. This will do nicely, she announced, standing in Tyler's playroom doorway. Robert, could you help me move these toys? Just temporarily, of course. I watched my husband, the man who never backed down from a challenge at work, who'd once presented to a room of Fortune 500 CEOs without breaking a sweat, begin picking up Tyler's building blocks. Robert, don't. He paused, a handful of Legos in his palm. Emily, it's just for a few days. It's his room. It's a playroom, Patricia corrected gently. Children Tyler's age don't need dedicated play spaces. In my day, children played outside or in the family room where parents could supervise properly. In her day, it would become her favorite phrase, wielded like a weapon against every decision I made as a mother. Tyler's confused morning. I lost the battle over the playroom that night, but I won a small victory in keeping Tyler's bedtime routine intact. Patricia had suggested that all this structure wasn't healthy for a growing boy, but I held firm. The next morning, Thanksgiving Day, I woke to silence. Complete, unsettling silence. Tyler was an early riser, always up by 6:30 a.m. demanding pancakes and juice. But it was 7:45, and I could hear Robert's shower running in our ensuite bathroom. No Tyler chatter from downstairs. I found them in the kitchen. Patricia, fully dressed in a spotless cream blouse and slacks, was feeding Tyler what looked like chocolate cake for breakfast. "It's coffee cake," she explained before I could speak. "My grandmother's recipe. Much more nutritious than those sugary cereals you give him." Tyler's face was smeared with chocolate and his eyes had that slightly manic gleam that came from too much sugar on an empty stomach. "Gamma made cake," he announced, bouncing in his high chair. Gamma said no more yucky oatmeal. Oma. Not Grandma Patricia. Not Grammy. Gamma. Like she'd been part of his vocabulary his entire life. "He was crying when he woke up," Patricia explained, washing dishes in my sink with aggressive efficiency. "Poor thing was calling for you, but you looked so exhausted last night. I thought I'd let you sleep in." I glanced at the clock. My turkey needed to go in the oven in 30 minutes. My guests would arrive in 5 hours. And my 2-year-old was having a sugar crash before 8 a.m. This is when I should have known. This is when every maternal instinct I possessed should have been screaming warnings. But Patricia was so reasonable, so helpful, so concerned about my well-being. "Thank you," I heard myself saying. "That was thoughtful." Patricia beamed. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm here to help. You've been doing this all alone for so long, it's time you had some support." All alone. As if Robert had been deployed overseas instead of working 40-hour weeks downtown. The Thanksgiving disaster. The dinner was a catastrophe, though not in any way my guests could have articulated. Everything looked perfect. The turkey was golden, the sides were expertly seasoned, my table was set with the good china and my grandmother's lace tablecloth. Patricia had even helped, making her famous green bean casserole and monopolizing conversations with her nursing stories. But Tyler was impossible. He refused to sit in his high chair, threw food when I tried to cut his turkey into appropriate pieces, and had a complete meltdown when I said no to a third helping of pie. "He's overtired," I explained to my guests, trying to maintain some dignity while a chocolate-covered toddler screamed in my arms. "Actually," Patricia interjected from across the table, "I think he might be overwhelmed by all the stimulation. Children Tyler's age do better with smaller, calmer gatherings." 12 people. I'd invited 12 people: my parents, Robert's college friends, our neighbor Sarah and her daughter. It wasn't a circus, it was a family holiday. When Robert was Tyler's age, Patricia continued, addressing the table as if I weren't holding my screaming child. "We kept things very simple. Very peaceful. Children need structure, not chaos." Chaos. She'd called my carefully planned Thanksgiving chaos. I excused myself to put Tyler down for his nap, even though he rarely napped past 2 p.m. anymore. In his crib, he clung to my neck, his little body finally relaxing away from all the noise. "Gamma said I good boy," he mumbled against my shoulder. "Gamma said Mama makes too much noise." I pulled back to look at him. "When did Gamma say that, sweetie?" "When Mama was cooking." "Gamma says, Siji, too much noise makes Tyler sad." She'd been in his ear all morning. While I was frantically preparing dinner, while Robert was watching football with his college friends, Patricia had been whispering to my son, teaching him that I was the source of disruption in his world. Back to present, the realization. I shake myself back to the present, the phone still pressed to my ear. Jenny from daycare is waiting for my response about Tyler's comments. "Mrs. Williams? Are you still there?" "Yes, I'm here. Look, Tyler's father has been taking him to therapy sessions." "Maybe something came up there?" "Therapy sessions?" We weren't informed of any ongoing therapy. Of course they weren't, because Robert never told me either. "I'll speak with my husband," I say carefully. "And I'll talk to Tyler tonight." "Mrs. Williams, given your family's history with CPS investigations." "There was never an investigation," I interrupt sharply. "My mother-in-law was arrested for fraud. The charges against me were dropped." "Of course. I just meant, we want to be supportive. If you need resources." I hang up before she can finish. My hands are shaking again, just like they did 6 months ago when Patricia's web of lies nearly cost me everything. But here's what I've learned. Predators like Patricia Williams don't just disappear. They leave sleeper cells behind. Little bombs of poison that keep exploding long after they're gone. I grab my keys and head for the door. It's time to have a conversation with Dr. Phillips. Dr. Phillips's office, the confronting. Dr. Phillips's office hasn't changed. Same beige walls, same motivational posters about healing and family communication. The same man behind the desk who once told Robert that I was suffering from paranoid delusions with postpartum onset. Mrs. Williams. He greets me with professional warmth. I wasn't expecting you today. Is Robert joining us? No. And that's exactly what I want to discuss. I sit across from him, my posture straight, my voice level. 6 months ago, I was a desperate woman trying to prove her sanity. Today, I'm a mother protecting her child. I understand you've been having therapy sessions with my husband and son. Sessions I wasn't informed about. Dr. Phillips's smile falters slightly. Robert felt individual sessions might be beneficial during this transition period. After the difficulties with his mother, he's been processing quite a bit of guilt. Guilt, not recognition of his mother's manipulation, not understanding of how he'd enabled her abuse. Guilt. And Tyler? What's your therapeutic justification for including a 2-year-old in these sessions? Children often benefit from guided discussion about family changes. Robert was concerned that Tyler might have confused memories about his grandmother. Confused memories. Like Tyler remembering Patricia's kindness instead of her manipulation. Dr. Phillips, have you been encouraging Tyler to share positive memories of his grandmother? His pause tells me everything. I believe it's important for children not to demonize family members. Even in difficult situations like yours, maintaining some positive associations. Stop. I hold up my hand. Stop right there. Patricia Williams is a convicted felon who systematically destroyed families for years. She manipulated my husband into questioning my mental health. She filed false reports trying to get my child removed from my care, and she attempted to steal our home through forged documents. Mrs. Williams, I understand you're still processing trauma, but vilifying. I'm not vilifying anyone. I'm stating facts that were proven in federal court. I lean forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. Are you in contact with Patricia Williams? The question hangs in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. That would be highly inappropriate, he says finally. That's not an answer. Mrs. Williams, I think you're projecting your anxiety. My son told his daycare teacher that Grandma Pat said Mommy lies about good people. He asked when she's coming back to make Daddy happy. Those aren't confused memories, Doctor. Those are recent conversations. I stand up, pulling out my phone. I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you facilitating contact between my son and Patricia Williams? Dr. Phillips looks at his hands. Robert feels Tyler should understand that families are complicated. That sometimes good people make mistakes. Good people. I laugh. But there's no humor in it. Doctor, do you know what Patricia Williams did to the Thompson family in Denver? Or the Miller family in Phoenix? Have you bothered to research the woman you're helping my husband rehabilitate in my son's mind? His silence is answer enough. These sessions end today, I say firmly. If my husband wants therapy, he can find a therapist who wasn't recommended by his manipulative mother. And if you continue seeing my son without my consent, I'll file complaints with your licensing board and report this conversation to my attorney. I'm at the door when he speaks. Mrs. Williams, Robert is concerned about your stability. After everything that happened, I turn back slowly. My stability? I was the one who uncovered Patricia's fraud. I was the one who gathered evidence of her crimes. I was the one who protected my family while my husband was being manipulated. And I'll do it again if I have to. Home of the conversation with Robert. Robert's car is in the driveway when I get home. He's early, too early for a normal workday. I find him in the kitchen, making Tyler a snack that looks suspiciously like more chocolate. Where were you? He asks without looking up. Tyler's daycare called. They said you seemed upset. I was at Dr. Phillips' office. His hand stills on the plastic spoon. Emily, I don't think you need therapy right now. We talked about this. I wasn't there for therapy. I was there to find out why our son is talking about his imprisoned grandmother like she's coming back. Tyler looks up from his chocolate pudding, his face brightening. Gamma coming back. Daddy said maybe. The room goes silent except for the hum of our refrigerator. Robert. My voice is deadly calm. What did you tell our son? He sets down the spoon, his jaw tight. I told him that sometimes people make mistakes. That doesn't make them bad people. She's in federal prison. She's my mother. And there it is. The line that was never really crossed, even after everything. Even after Patricia's arrest, her conviction, the mountain of evidence proving her deliberate manipulation, and Robert still sees her as his misguided mother rather than the predator she actually is. This is what I should have understood 6 months ago. Winning against Patricia wasn't enough. As long as Robert couldn't see her clearly, she'd always have a way back into our lives. Tyler, sweetie, go play in the living room for a few minutes. Mommy and Daddy need to talk. After he's gone, I face my husband across our kitchen island. Are you in contact with her? She calls sometimes. She's allowed phone calls. And you answer. She's in prison, Emily. She's lost everything. She's an old woman who made some bad choices. Stop. I hold up my hand. Just stop. Bad choices? Robert, she forged our signatures on loan documents. She filed false reports to try to get Tyler taken away from me. She systematically destroyed other families before us. I know what she did. But I also know she raised me. She loved me the best way she knew how. She didn't love you. She owned you. There's a difference. His face hardens. You can't understand. You had normal parents who supported your choices. My mom, after my dad died, I was all she had. And there's the root of it. The guilt that Patricia planted when Robert was 8 years old and his father died of a sudden heart attack. The guilt she watered and tended for 27 years until it grew into this, a grown man who can't distinguish between love and manipulation. Robert, do you remember what your father wrote in those letters? The ones Patricia hid from you? Those letters were written when Dad was angry, when they were fighting. Those letters were written by a man trying to protect his son from a woman he'd finally seen clearly. I grabbed the folder from our kitchen desk, the same folder that saved us 6 months ago. Inside are photocopies of Robert's father's letters, discovered in our attic after Patricia's arrest. Dear Robert, I read aloud. I need you to understand something about your mother. She doesn't love people, she collects them. You're not her son to her, you're her possession. And she'll do anything to keep her possessions under control. Robert turns away. He was dying. He was angry about the cancer. If something happens to me, don't let her isolate you. Don't let her make you feel guilty for living your own life. And whatever you do, don't let her near your children. The last line hits like it always does. Robert's father saw this coming decades ago. Emily, enough. She'll use your love against you, son. That's what she does. But love isn't supposed to hurt. Robert's shoulders slump. For a moment, he looks exactly like Tyler when he's been caught doing something wrong, confused, ashamed, but not ready to admit fault. She's still my mother, he whispers. And Tyler is still our son. Which one are you going to choose? The ultimatum. The silence stretches between us like a chasm. Through the window, I can see our rebuilt garden, the space where Patricia once tried to uproot everything I'd planted. Now it thrives, but it took months of careful tending to undo the damage she'd done. She wants to see him, Robert says finally. Tyler. She has visitation rights as a grandparent, and her lawyer says. No, Emily. Legally. Legally, she's a convicted felon who used fraud and manipulation to try to steal our home and destroy our marriage. Legally, I have documentation of her filing false reports with CPS. Legally, I have recordings of her admitting to her crimes. I move closer to him, my voice softening. Robert, I understand she's your mother. I understand you have complicated feelings about her imprisonment. But I will not allow Tyler to be exposed to her manipulation again. It would be supervised. Prison visits are completely controlled. It's not about the setting. It's about the message. Every time you tell Tyler that Grandma Pat is just a confused old lady who made mistakes, you're teaching him that manipulation is acceptable if it comes from family. You're teaching him that love means accepting abuse. Robert's face crumples. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to cut her off completely. And there's the truth underneath all his defensiveness. Robert isn't choosing Patricia over Tyler and me. Robert doesn't know how to choose anything. He's been trained from childhood to avoid conflict, to smooth over problems, to keep everyone happy even when happiness requires sacrificing his own well-being. I take his hands in mine. Then let me help you. But Robert, you have to trust me completely this time. No secret therapy sessions, no phone calls from prison, no rehabilitation efforts. If you want to process your feelings about your mother, do it with a therapist who wasn't chosen by her. Do it with someone who understands that loving someone doesn't mean enabling their destructive behavior. He looks at me with the same expression he had 6 months ago when the police were leading Patricia away in handcuffs, lost, ashamed, desperate for someone to tell him what the right thing to do is. What if she dies in prison? What if she gets sick and I never got to? To what? To have the mother you deserved? Robert, that woman never existed. The mother you're mourning is a fantasy that Patricia created to keep you under control. I pull him closer. But Tyler can have the father he deserves. He can have a father who chooses his family's safety over the comfort of avoiding difficult truths. I'm scared, he admits. What if you're wrong about her? What if she really was just trying to help in her confused way? Then we'll deal with that when Tyler is old enough to make his own informed decisions about relationships. But right now, he's 2 years old, and our job is to protect him from harm, even harm that comes wrapped in the package of family love. The decision. Robert stares at his hands for a long moment. I can see the war playing out in his mind, 35 years of conditioning versus 6 months of hard-won clarity. Okay, he says finally. Okay. No more phone calls. No more visits. And I'll find a new therapist. And no more secret conversations with Tyler about his grandmother. And no more secret conversations. He looks up at me. Emily, I'm sorry. For all of it. For not believing you sooner. For letting her back into our lives even after everything. I want to say it's okay. But it's not okay. It may never be completely okay. Patricia's poison runs deep, and trust, once broken, doesn't rebuild overnight. We'll figure it out, I say instead. But Robert, if you have contact with her again without telling me, if you expose Tyler to her influence in any way, I'll take him and leave. I won't go through this again. He nods, understanding the weight of my words. I know. I understand. Tyler's voice drifts in from the living room. He's talking to his toy dinosaurs, making them have elaborate conversations about friendship and sharing. Normal 2-year-old play, unmarked by the adult dramas swirling around him. For now. Epilogue. 3 months later. The support group meets in the basement of a community center in downtown Chicago. 12 folding chairs arranged in a circle, terrible coffee brewing in the corner, and 8 women who share the same haunted look around their eyes. Emily, Caroline Bennett greets me as I settle into my usual chair. How's Tyler doing? Better? The new therapist thinks he's forgotten most of the confusion from those sessions with Dr. Phillips. Caroline nods. She knows better than anyone how long the effects of Patricia's manipulation can linger. Her father is still in therapy, still working through years of her psychological abuse. And Robert? I consider the question. He's trying. Really trying. But some habits die hard. Just last week, I'd caught him starting to dial Patricia's number after Tyler had a particularly difficult day. The instinct to call his mother for parenting advice dies hard, even when that mother is serving time in federal prison. It's the little things, says Maria from across the circle. My ex-husband still flinches when I raise my voice, even though it's been 2 years since his mother was removed from our home. Patricia Williams destroyed 5 families that we know of. There are probably more that we'll never identify. Each of us in this circle represents years of careful rebuilding, of learning to trust our instincts again, of teaching our children the difference between love and control. Has anyone heard from her recently? Asks Janet, whose family was Patricia's first known target. She wrote to Robert last month, I admit. The letter was intercepted by her victim services officer. Apparently, she's not supposed to have contact with any of her victims' families. But she tried. The letter had been short but devastating in its effectiveness. My dearest son, I think of you and precious Tyler every day. I know I made mistakes, but everything I did was out of love. I hope someday you'll forgive a foolish old woman and let me meet my grandchild properly. Mistakes. Foolish old woman. Even from prison, Patricia was still weaving her web of self-pity and manipulation. The important thing, Caroline says gently, is that Robert brought the letter to you instead of hiding it. She's right. The old Robert, the Robert from 18 months ago, would have agonized over that letter in secret, would have wondered if maybe his mother really was just a confused old woman who loved him too much. The new Robert brought it straight to me and asked me to help him craft a response to the victim services officer about tightening her communication restrictions. Progress, not perfection. That's what recovery looks like. My daughter asked about her grandmother yesterday, Maria shares. She's 4 now, old enough to notice that other kids have grandmothers who visit and bring presents. I didn't know what to say. This is the part they don't tell you about situations like ours. How do you explain to a child that their grandmother is dangerous? How do you balance honesty with age-appropriate information? How do you protect them from manipulation without creating fear of all elderly women? I told Tyler that Grandma Pat had to go away because she made bad choices, I offer. And that sometimes people who love us don't know how to show love in healthy ways. Does he ask when she's coming back? Not anymore. His new therapist, Dr. Rodriguez, says that's normal. Children Tyler's age live very much in the present. As long as his current environment feels safe and stable, the disruption from 18 months ago fades into background noise. But I know it's not that simple. Patricia's influence on Tyler was brief but intensive. Even now, he sometimes exhibits behaviors that make me wonder, the way he manipulates his daycare teachers with exaggerated sadness when he wants something, the way he can shift from tears to smiles with calculated precision. Am I paranoid or am I vigilant? Sometimes it's impossible to tell the difference. The phone call from prison. 3 weeks after the support group meeting, my phone rings at 2:15 p.m. while Tyler is napping. Unknown number with a Chicago area code. Will you accept a collect call from the Cook County Correctional Facility? My blood freezes. Patricia isn't supposed to have my number. She's not supposed to have contact with any of us. No, I say firmly and hang up. The phone rings again immediately. Same automated message. This time I accept the call, but I also hit record on my voice memo app. Emily? Patricia's voice is thinner than I remember, with a fragile quality that wasn't there before. Oh, sweetheart, thank goodness. I've been so worried about you and precious Tyler. You're not supposed to be calling me. I know, but it's an emergency. The medical staff here, they're not taking my condition seriously. My blood pressure is dangerously high, and I'm having chest pains, and they keep saying it's anxiety, but I know my own body. The same medical manipulation she used on us. Even from prison, she's playing the sick, helpless victim. Patricia, I'm hanging up. Wait. Please. Emily. I know you're angry with me, and you have every right to be. But I need you to understand. Everything I did was because I love my family. I love Robert. I love Tyler. And yes, I love you too. You're the daughter I never had. The daughter she never had. The same line she used on Jessica Miller, on Caroline Bennett, on all of us. I was wrong, she continues, her voice breaking with perfectly timed emotion. I was so afraid of losing Robert, of being alone, that I made terrible choices. But Emily, I'm paying for those choices now. I'm in prison, away from everyone I love. Isn't that punishment enough? I close my eyes, remembering the woman who stood in my kitchen 18 months ago, dismantling my family with surgical precision. This broken voice on the phone is another performance, another mask. How did you get my number? Robert. Robert visited me last week. The words hit like a physical blow. Robert visited her. Without telling me. After promising me complete transparency. He was so conflicted, so guilty about not being a good son. Emily, he loves you and Tyler, but he loves me too. Is it fair to make him choose? There it is. The hook she's been waiting to set. You made him choose when you tried to destroy his family. I was protecting him. That's what mothers do. We protect our children, even when they can't see the dangers around them. Her voice is rising now, the helpless victim mask slipping to reveal the manipulator underneath. What dangers, Patricia? A wife who loved him, a son who brought him joy, a stable home and career? You are isolating him, taking him away from his family, filling his head with ideas about independence and boundaries. I raised that boy. I sacrificed everything for him, and you waltzed in and convinced him that I was some kind of monster. And there's the truth. I didn't turn Robert against his mother, I simply existed as competition for his loyalty, and that was enough to make me a threat in Patricia's eyes. I'm hanging up now. Don't call again. Emily. Wait. Tyler. I have rights as his grandmother. Even from here, I have rights. I end the call and immediately dial my attorney. The confrontation with Robert again. Robert's key turns in the lock at 6:47 p.m. I'm waiting in the kitchen with Tyler's drawing materials spread across the island, a deliberate choice to have this conversation in a space associated with our son's innocence. Hi, honey, he calls, hanging up his jacket. Sorry I'm late. Meeting ran long. How was your visit with your mother last week? He freezes in the doorway to the kitchen. The color drains from his face so quickly I think he might faint. Emily, I can explain. She called me today. From prison. Told me you visited her. Robert sinks into the chair across from me, his head in his hands. It wasn't, I didn't plan it. I was driving past the facility after that client meeting downtown, and I needed to see her. You needed to see the woman who tried to destroy our family. I needed to understand if she was really as manipulative as everyone says, or if maybe. He looks up at me, his eyes pleading. Emily, what if we were wrong? What if she really was just a lonely old woman who went too far trying to help? And there it is. The doubt that Patricia planted is still growing, still spreading through Robert's mind like poison ivy. Robert, she forged legal documents. She filed false CPS reports. She tried to have me committed to a psychiatric facility. What part of that seems like trying to help to you? I know. I know all that. But seeing her in that orange jumpsuit looking so small and frail. Emily, she's 65 years old. She's lost everything. Her house, her freedom, her relationship with me and Tyler. Maybe that's enough punishment. I pull out my phone and play Patricia's call from earlier. Robert's face cycles through recognition, guilt, and finally, understanding as he hears his mother's voice shift from vulnerable victim to angry manipulator within the span of 2 minutes. She's still doing it, he whispers when the recording ends. She'll always be doing it. That's who she is. Robert stares at the phone as if it contains a poisonous snake. She told me you were keeping Tyler from her out of spite, that you were using my guilt about her imprisonment to control me. And you believed her? Part of me did. His admission is barely audible. Part of me wanted to believe her because believing her would mean this whole nightmare was just a misunderstanding that could be fixed. I reach across the island and take his hands. They're shaking slightly. Robert, I need you to understand something. Your mother didn't end up in prison because I'm vindictive or controlling. She ended up in prison because she committed serious crimes against multiple families over many years. The evidence against her was overwhelming. I know that logically. But emotionally, you're still that 8-year-old boy whose mother told him he was responsible for her happiness. Robert's eyes fill with tears. How do I stop feeling guilty for choosing my wife and son over my mother? You stop thinking of it as a choice between people and start thinking of it as a choice between healthy and unhealthy relationships. Patricia doesn't love you, Robert. She owns you. And ownership isn't love. Tyler's voice drifts in from the living room where he's playing with his building blocks, humming a song from daycare. Happy, oblivious to the adult drama swirling around him. I don't want him to go through this, Robert says, nodding toward Tyler's voice. I don't want him to grow up feeling responsible for other people's emotions. Then we teach him the difference between love and manipulation. We teach him that healthy relationships don't require sacrificing your own well-being. And we model those lessons by making the hard choices ourselves. Robert wipes his eyes. No more visits. No more visits. No more phone calls. No more phone calls. And if she contacts me again through other people, I tell you immediately. And you tell me immediately. He looks at me with something like wonder. How are you so strong about this? How are you not confused or conflicted? The answer is simple, but it took me months to understand it myself. Because I'm protecting our son. When you're protecting your child, clarity comes easier. 6 months later, the appeal. The letter arrives on a Tuesday morning in March, official stationery from the Illinois Department of Corrections. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Williams, you're being notified that inmate Patricia Williams, 47,291, has filed an appeal for early release based on medical hardship. As victims in her case, you have the right to submit impact statements to the parole board. I set the letter down carefully on our kitchen counter. Through the window, I can see Tyler in our backyard, now almost 3 years old, helping Robert plant new herbs in the garden space that Patricia once tried to destroy. They're laughing together, my husband and my son, their heads bent over a small basil plant. Robert is teaching Tyler how to gently pat the soil around the roots, how to give plants the care they need to thrive. This is what family should look like. Not the twisted power dynamics that Patricia called love, but this two people choosing to nurture something together. My phone buzzes. A text from Caroline Bennett. Did you get the letter about Patricia's appeal? Just now. I text back. Medical hardship? High blood pressure and diabetes. Same conditions she claimed to have when she was manipulating our families. Of course. Patricia is still playing the victim, still using medical concerns as weapons of manipulation. But now she's doing it from behind bars, where her audience is parole officers instead of vulnerable family members. Are you writing an impact statement? Caroline asks. I look out the window again. Tyler has dirt on his face and joy in his eyes. Robert is patient with him, encouraging his small hands as they work together in the earth. Yes, I text back, but not for the reasons she expects. The impact statement to the Illinois Parole Board. My name is Emily Williams. I am writing to oppose the early release of Patricia Williams, inmate 47,291, based on her petition for medical hardship. Patricia Williams systematically destroyed my family over the course of 18 months. She used elaborate manipulation tactics including false medical claims, forged legal documents, and psychological abuse to attempt to steal our home, destroy our marriage, and gain custody of our son. But this statement is not about what Patricia Williams did to us. This statement is about what she continues to do. Even from prison, Patricia Williams has attempted to contact members of my family through illegal phone calls, unauthorized letters, and manipulation of our previous therapist. She has shown no remorse for her crimes and no understanding of the harm she caused to multiple families. The medical conditions Patricia Williams claims are preventing her from serving her full sentence are the same conditions she claimed to have during the commission of her crimes. Medical records from her arrest show no evidence of the serious health issues she now claims are life-threatening. Patricia Williams is not a confused elderly woman who made mistakes. She is a predator who spent decades perfecting her ability to identify and manipulate vulnerable people. Her age and supposed frailty are tools she uses to gain sympathy and avoid consequences. Early release would give Patricia Williams the opportunity to target new victims. It would also send a message to her current victims that our safety is less important than her comfort. I urge you to deny her petition and require her to serve her full sentence. Sincerely, Emily Williams' mother, wife, and survivor. I print 3 copies, one for the parole board, one for our attorney, and one for my own files. Then I walk outside to where my family is working in the garden. Mama, look. Tyler holds up his dirt-covered hands proudly. I planted basil. You did such a good job, sweetheart. I kneel beside him in the soil, breathing in the scent of earth and growing things. This is going to be beautiful when it grows up. Robert catches my eye over Tyler's head. Everything okay? Everything's perfect. And for the first time in 2 years, I mean it completely. Final scene. 1 year later. The phone call comes on a rainy Thursday in April. I'm folding laundry while Tyler naps, the domestic peace of our renovated home wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Mrs. Williams, This is Officer Janet Martinez from the Illinois Department of Corrections. I'm calling to inform you that inmate Patricia Williams died this morning of complications from a stroke. I sit down heavily on our couch, the basket of Tyler's small shirts forgotten in my lap. Was it sudden? She was taken to the hospital yesterday evening. She passed peacefully this morning. As her next of kin has been notified, I wanted to inform you as well, given your victim's status in her case. Robert. They would have called Robert first. Thank you for letting me know. After I hang up, I sit in the silence of our home. No sense of victory, no feeling of relief. Just emptiness. The monster that haunted our family for so long is simply gone. Tyler's sleepy voice drifts down from upstairs. Mama? I awake. Coming, baby. I find him in his room, hair tousled from sleep, clutching the stuffed elephant that Patricia once tried to replace. He's grown so much in the past year, longer legs, more words, but still that sweet smile that makes my heart skip. Did you have a good nap? I dreamed about dinosaurs and ice cream, he announces seriously. And Daddy was there, and you were there, but no scary ladies. No scary ladies. I don't think Tyler remembers Patricia consciously anymore, but sometimes his subconscious surfaces in unexpected ways. That sounds like a very good dream. Mama, can we make cookies when Daddy comes home? Of course we can. Robert's car pulls into the driveway at 5:30, right on schedule. I watch through the window as he sits in the driver's seat for a moment, his hands gripping the steering wheel. Then he takes a deep breath and walks toward our front door. How are you? I ask when he comes inside. I don't know. He hangs up his jacket with careful precision. I thought I'd feel something more. Relief, or sadness, or something. But it just feels like closing a book I never wanted to read in the first place. Tyler runs down the stairs, launching himself into Robert's arms. Daddy, Mama said we can make cookies. Did she? Well, we better get started then. I watch them together in our kitchen, Tyler standing on a chair beside Robert, helping measure flour and arguing about whether chocolate chips or sprinkles are better. This is the family Patricia tried to destroy, and we're not just surviving anymore. We're thriving. The best revenge isn't destroying your enemy. It's building a life so beautiful that their absence only makes it more beautiful. That evening, after Tyler is asleep and the cookie dishes are washed, Robert and I sit in our backyard. The garden is in full bloom now, herbs and flowers creating a tapestry of green and color where Patricia once stood and criticized my choices. Do you think we should tell Tyler someday? Robert asks. About what she did, why she's not in his life, when he's older. When he can understand the difference between family who loves you and family who hurts you. And if he asks why we didn't give her more chances? I think about this for a moment, watching fireflies begin to dance among our restored plants. We'll tell him that love doesn't require you to accept abuse. That protecting your family sometimes means disappointing people who claim to love you. And that choosing safety over guilt is always the right choice. Robert nods, his face peaceful in the twilight. I still feel guilty sometimes. I know. That's normal. The guilt will probably always be there a little bit. But Robert, feeling guilty about protecting your family from a predator is like feeling guilty about locking your doors at night. The guilt isn't rational, but the protection is necessary. A year ago, this conversation would have sent Robert spiraling into self-doubt and desperate phone calls to Dr. Phillips. Tonight, he simply nods and squeezes my hand. Thank you, he says quietly. For what? For fighting for us when I couldn't. For seeing clearly when I was too confused. For never giving up on the possibility that we could be happy. Inside the house, Tyler's nightlight glows in his window. Tomorrow he'll wake up excited about something small and wonderful, a new book from the library, or a planned trip to the park, or the possibility of pancakes for breakfast. His world is safe and predictable and full of people who love him without conditions. Patricia Williams is gone, but the life we built in spite of her remains. And that life, chaotic and imperfect and gloriously normal, is beautiful enough to erase every shadow she tried to cast. Sometimes the greatest victory is simply the right to live in peace.